And hello, welcome to Open, the show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world right to you. I am Darren Jaime, and today we'll update you on what's happening in and around our borough and New York City. Coming up, Bronx students are stepping into the role of global diplomats, debating real-world issues and representing countries and building skills, actually preparing them for college, careers, and beyond. And coming up, New York is also facing billion-dollar budget gaps, but a new report lays out 5 innovative ways to raise revenue, fund public services, and improve infrastructure. We'll break it down and talk about the ideas and talk to an expert who's behind the analysis. And then we preview one of the most powerful gospel celebrations. It brings together some legendary voices, global talent, and a tradition that has inspired millions for more than decades. With unforgettable performances and a cultural legacy, this Mother's Day weekend event promises something truly extraordinary. And then lastly, we'll meet a remarkable woman whose journey through a life-changing cancer diagnosis transformed not only her own future, but also her mission in life. From an elite athlete to a survivor, she turned unimaginable challenges into a message of resilience, faith, and hope. So we encourage you to stay tuned because all this and much more is heading your way. Right now, we're officially open. And hello, everyone. I am Darren Jaime. You are now watching Open, a program that brings the Bronx and New York City straight to you. You can stay connected to us on all of our social media platforms at Bronxnet TV. Well, some things have been going on throughout the past week. We'll take you through it with some Bronx updates. Well, New York City is often seen as a place of opportunity, but for many residents, it's also becoming increasingly difficult just to make ends meet. A new analysis takes a closer look at what it actually takes to live here today, going beyond official poverty lines to measure the real cost of essentials like housing and childcare and food, as well as health care. Our Bronxnet reporter, Shatrice McQueen, brings us the story.
Let's face it, the New York City living crisis is a nightmare. Costs are skyrocketing while wages stay stagnant, and more people are falling behind. Now, the federal poverty level rests at $33,000 per year for a family of 4, but the Fund for the City of New York has statistics that say the true cost of living is far higher. It's been getting more and more difficult to live in New York City, let alone live comfortably. Now, we have new numbers showing what it costs to meet the necessities of living here.
We are calling on this New York City mayor to really push and really consider this measurement so they can really identify where the gaps are when it comes to food affordability, transportation, and when it comes to accessibility in all aspects for New Yorkers.
Fund for the City of New York has released the True Cost of Living report, which gives us the difference between what New Yorkers make and what they need to survive in New York City.
There's a great deal of anxiety, of angst, of worry, of stress, of just how to make ends meet at the end of each and every single month, even doing all the right things.
The report found that approximately 46% of working-age New York City households fall under the true cost of living, which is roughly 1.5 million homes across the boroughs.
In order for us to get the full picture, we also have to identify that each borough is different, so each borough definitely has to be assessed differently.
Let's break this down further. The true cost of living bases itself off of a self-sufficiency framework. It measures the net amount of income needed. This includes cost of food, rent, childcare, childcare, transportation, medical expenses, and more without private and public assistance. They've analyzed over 270 different kinds of households and included statistics from all racial groups. It's been found that Black and Latin households are most likely to fall below the cost of living. Single mothers have also been cited as the most vulnerable population to fall under, with numbers being as high as 86%. In all, the average New York household needs $120,000 and more in most areas to meet basic needs.
The other thing that we're seeing is that people are moving into the Bronx as kind of the last place for them to be able to afford.
The Bronx has the highest rates of households living below the true cost, with the South Bronx sitting at 80% of homes.
It's important we think about a strategy that's focused on the Bronx that can be supportive of making sure more families in the Bronx are meeting their needs.
Many move from other boroughs to the Bronx when ends don't meet. However, the Bronx is still seeing the highest percentages of living below their needs.
The Bronx just is highlighted in a different way, and so that may mean that we think about borough-wide strategies versus just city-wide strategies.
A clear, concise report is important for many reasons, but the main one is this. If there isn't a report that encompasses what it truly takes to live, there's no way to move forward to make things better. And New York deserves a report that represents all living situations. No one deserves to be overlooked. In the Bronx, I'm Shatrice McQueen with Bronxnet.
And thank you, Shatrice. In other news, at Barrico College, a new exhibition is bringing together artists exploring identity, community, and the deep connection between land and sea. Through a mix of materials, perspectives, and creative approaches, the exhibit uses art as a tool for reflection as well as expression. Our Bronxnet reporter Ashley De Leon brings us the story.
At Boricua College, the Arte de Terra y Mar exhibit brought together artists from diverse backgrounds, exploring identity, community, and connections between land and sea.
This exhibit is about art as resistance, art as protest, art as transformation.
The work on display touches on a wide range of topics, from personal identity to a shared connection with the natural world.
No matter which art piece you're looking at, it will connect you back to your own self, like your ancestors, where you come from. And I think that's the biggest thing about art is like showing how we're all connected and we all have a connection to nature.
I create emotional support critters and emotional support animals and beads and fidget toys for people who have anxiety, autism, and any kind of sensory issues. So I'm used to making people comfortable. So this is the first time that I've actually created art that makes people uncomfortable.
Other artists are also rethinking their materials, using recycled elements to reflect themes of sustainability and renewal.
Most of my art that I use is like recycled. Like I use like cardboard or like some like stuff that you would call as trash. I would use that for my art. You know, like I put like paper and like, you know, paint over it.
Organizers say that involving younger generations is key to keeping creative expression alive.
I want younger folks, but more specifically, to feel in tune with their creativity, because this is very, you know, a lot of these pieces are bringing spirit into the artwork. So it's very spiritual, healing, almost ceremonial art. And I think that's really important for the youth to be a part of that.
Through conversation and creativity, this exhibit is not only showcasing art, but inspiring future voices to be part of it. Reporting for Bronxnet, Ashley De Leon.
And thank you, Ashley. That is all the time we have for our Bronx updates. We are taking a quick break, but guess what? We'll have more open when we return. And we are back at United Charter High School for the Humanities in the Bronx. Students are gaining real-world experience in research, public speaking, and civic engagement through programs like Model Congress and Model United Nations. Recently, students represented countries at a Model UN conference in New York City, including sessions at the United Nations itself, earning multiple awards and recognition for their performance. And joining me now to talk about the impact of these programs and what students are actually gaining from these experiences is Lillian Lopez. She's the principal of United Charter High Schools for the Humanities, along with students Shawn Davies and Genesis Ardon. And thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having us.
And congratulations, by the way. I think it's a great opportunity to really talk about some interesting things that you're talking about in the world right now. A lot is going on globally, but yet and still, you've actually decided to put this program together that's really going to help students to talk about worldviews and to debate. And so, how did this all come about, first of all?
So it was a thought that we kind of had together. So our students are also our student council students, and we're trying to make sure that at Humanities High School, we're giving them the opportunity to be exposed to not just the regular New York State curriculum, but the skills that they're going to need to go beyond the classroom. And so they are perfect examples of this experience, and they were up to the challenge, and their advisor, Mrs. Anderson, who I wish could have been with us today, but stuck to it. This is things that they do outside of the classroom on their own time. And we started off with just Model Congress, and we shouldn't say just because that's our brainchild. We started off with Model Congress, and then we moved on this year to try out Model UN, and they rocked it.
So you've done Model Congress and then Model UN, and so let's talk about a little bit about Model UN. You get to talk about represent a country, and as you represent this country, I hear that you debate world issues and stuff like that. Is that how it goes?
Yes, exactly how it goes. We in Genesis we were partners, and we represented Bhutan. And Bhutan is a very peaceful country. They have a lot of peaceful values and views. And I believe the topic of discussion was children with disabilities. That was our topic, and we got to talk about that. And so me and Genesis went up, and we gave a little speech, and basically being like, I think the best part about it was that we're not representing yourself, like your personal views. You have to strictly the country's views. Right. So you sort of become the country. So yeah.
The voice of the country.
And so for yourself, talk about the preparation. How hard was it to prepare to really get ready to make this presentation?
Well, it was not that hard, because actually you just gotta learn about the country. You gotta learn like every single detail to be ready to present the country, because you're not talking about like, oh, your situation or what you think. You basically gotta go into their food and talk about for them. So that's why you gotta know every detail of the country.
So it's really not opinion, it's really you're coming with the facts.
Yeah.
Any, what about the nervous factor? Like, is you're debating, especially for a country that you're really not technically a part of, but yet still you're standing flat-footed, 10 toes down and defending?
Wow, the nerves were extremely up, because it's just so many other countries in there as well. I think it's over 160 countries in one room, and the nerves are definitely there, especially when it comes to like participating, actually giving a speech, because you want to make sure you're representing your country in the best way possible, because you don't want to, you're representing, especially if you're representing a peaceful country, you don't want to give them a bad look. So the nerves were definitely there, definitely.
And for yourself, obviously, the exposure has to be very, it's a high level, right? You're exposing them to world, and then you're exposing them to Congress. What do you think this means in the lives of young people having this exposure this early?
I think it's critical for them, right? Because we're talking about, those are the academic and the social aspects of it. But the bigger part for them is also they had a week of being exposed to students their age from around the world who also were put in that same position of representing a country that wasn't theirs. So while all day, it's a long day for them, sitting in different rooms together and getting to know each other, but also the social networking that comes with it. They now have friends on the other side of the world that they actually met in real time versus just being on some social media platform or some, we depend so much on technology nowadays that these opportunities where they get to be in a room together and just live off of each other's energy, each other's experience, and know that what divides us is so much less than what could unite us if you're just in a room sharing that time together.
And for yourself, as you said, having the opportunity to meet people from around the world and have these conversations, what was that like, coming from right here in the Bronx, and now you're dealing with the world?
Yeah, so I believe it was really cool, because you don't know what these people are living. They are in other countries, so we get to share ideas and what we live every day, and it's like we see how different it is living in like other part of the world to compare to ours.
And if you had one moment that really stuck out for you in all of this, what would it be, Shawn?
Oh, like in the United Nations? Like,
yeah.
Okay, there was this one country, there's these two students, they represented Cambodia, and oh my God, it was like a war zone, because at first I was teaming up with us representing Bhutan and a couple other countries. We're teaming up with Bulgaria. Oh, well, not Bulgaria. What is it?
It was.
Who was it? We were teaming up with them essentially, and at first we were all a team, and then out of nowhere they like switched up on us, and their ideas like completely changed, and we're like, wait, because like their ideas more focused on the richer countries and benefiting them rather than like the poorer countries, and that's not what we stood for. So it was literally where we had to like, at first I gave a speech in support of them, and then in the next unmoderated caucus,
Right.
They switched their entire views, and I had to be like, okay, maybe we need to separate ourselves from them. And then there was the actual like big debates, because then once we were separated, we became two separate teams, and so now it was like, how do we sell our position? Because me and Genesis spent so long supporting these people.
Right.
How do we pull back from them and now build our own thing back up, our own empire back up?
Right. Major work there, right? And they actually achieved special recognition, huh?
Yes, they did. Them and their teammates. So it was 16 of them in total that we went to Model UN, and all 16 students received a special recognition, and they had to do it in teams, which was what was amazing. It's not just individualized achievements, but team achievements, and that's what we stand for, right? Once they leave us, we want to make sure that they know to work together, that the world is not one person by itself, but you are stronger together.
So I know that there's college on the horizon for you too, and you got some decisions to make. What does having a part of being the Congress and the UN, how does that shape what you want to do in the future?
I feel like it changed me because I didn't have the opportunities to do this type of stuff before, so I didn't know that I actually liked this. And now that I thank God and Ms. Lopez and the school, I had the opportunities to do it, and it's like, okay, I really like it. I can study something like related to it, because now I already got out of my comfort zone, and before I was so shy, and now I am able to do public speaking, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's so cool.
Yeah. So do you want this to be like a part of your major, or how do you feel?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I'm still not sure what I want to major in, but yeah, I have my options.
Got time, take time. But not much time, but time. Deja, what about yourself?
Yeah.
It definitely influenced me because, I mean, the public speaking aspect, like Genesis said, it definitely did improve my public speaking. In terms of how this affected like me and my future plans with college, it made me realize that I really, really like politics. And so I think, depending on, we'll see how things goes, I think I want to go into law. Like, I always knew I wanted to go into law, but like the political aspect really set it in for me. So now I was like, yes, I definitely want to do it, because I was still like on the edge. Like maybe like law is good and all, but maybe I want to do like something else. Like I always had other options, but now I'm fully set on law. I'm fully decided.
Yeah.
And where do you want to go?
So I have two, in terms of college, I have two major options. One of them is Stanford, which is in California.
Right.
And the other one is Howard. And that one really, really speaks out to me, Howard. Like the HBCU, yeah.
Okay. These are great options, by the way. It has got to be a great feeling watching them, not only just participate, but then see them to excel and now have a desire for a program that you actually birthed.
Yeah, it's definitely the most rewarding piece of it, because even the part that they're discussing with you, there's only so much preparation that we could do for them, right?
Mm-hmm.
They do this is not, currently it's not a class that we run. Mm-hmm. We do this as an aside to their regular academics.
Right.
Next year, we're hoping to make it at least a 3-day class, because it is a heavy lift for them to do. Sometimes we're working till midnight on Zoom, finishing up all the papers and the passion that comes from it. So I'm very proud of them.
So for students who want to participate in this, or a parent that's saying, listen, this might be something I want my youngster to be involved in, how do they get involved and what do they do?
So first of all, you have to come to Humanities.
Right, you gotta be a part of school first, right?
Amazing high school in the Marble Hill section of the Bronx. And as I said before, like Genesis and a lot of other students, they're student athletes. They are good in the classroom and on the field. So it's a model that works for multiple students. And if they want to be part of this model Congress piece, we run it through student council, because our school is also very student led. They all sit on student council, and they learn both their advocating and their debate skills through the various parts of student council.
So do you watch TV and watch these people on TV and be like, you're wrong, that's not me. I know I got facts here.
Yeah.
You watch?
Yeah.
That's good. So I want to encourage you. Keep doing what you're doing. You both are really an inspiration. And Principal, thank you so much for joining us.
And applications are open.
See, there you go. So if you want to become a part of the Humanities School, come on. And I mean, there's information that we can share. We're going to give it to you right now. But again, congratulations. Keep representing. And whatever you decide, we know you're going to be good at. So thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
All right. Now, listen, if you want more information, I'm going to encourage you to visit the school. Go to the website at unitedcharter.org. You'll find out all that you need to find out there. We encourage you don't go anywhere. We're going to be back with more Open coming up right after this.
What's up, creative family? Discover your voice with Bronxnet community media classes. Are you ready to bring your ideas to life? At Bronxnet, we offer television production classes for community members ages 18 and over, empowering you to share your vision with the world. Get certified in field production, in-studio production, and our new exciting addition, podcast production. Once certified, you can create your own show to air on one of our 6 TV channels. It all starts with our free Unleash Your Ideas Masterclass, designed to help you plan your show idea and set you up for success on your production journey. This class is offered at the beginning of each month for your convenience. Our dedicated Bronxnet team is here to support, encourage, and uplift you every step of the way. Join us and become a part of the creative force that engages and inspires the Bronx community and beyond. Sign up today and start your media journey with Bronxnet. Visit bronxnet.org/education to learn more and register. Let's create something amazing together.
And welcome back. Facing growing budget gaps and looming funding shortfalls, New York City needs creative solutions. A new report from the Center for an Urban Future highlights 5 practical revenue strategies, from building housing on CUNY campuses to impact fees on autonomous vehicles that could generate billions while supporting public programs. And joining me now to break down the report and what it means for the city is Eli Dvorkin, who is the Editorial Policy Director at the Center for an Urban Future. And Eli, good to have you.
Thanks so much for having me back.
Thank you. Good to have you back. So listen, February comes out, this report. You guys really take an in-depth look. You say, listen, the city, we can get some more money here. There's ways that we can go about doing this. And you say it's really tangible.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I think we see even just this week why the city needs ideas that the city can control. You know, the council speaker and the mayor went back to Albany just this week asking for additional dollars from the state. The governor said no. You know, the governor did propose a $500 million or so revenue idea in the form of a pied-à-terre tax, which is getting some of the way to closing this $6 billion budget gap. But we've got a long way to go. So I think given that the city has options that are within the city's control, now is the perfect time for the mayor and the council to be looking at what can New York City do on its own.
So let's look at your report for a moment and some of the things that you break down. You say there are some revenue streams that can be created. Let's unpack those.
Sure. So we've got 5 ideas in the report. The first one is maybe the biggest ticket dollar amount, and that is a modest expansion of paid street parking in New York City. So right now, New York City only meters about 80,000 spots out of 3 million curbside parking spots in New York City. You know, we got 12,000 miles of curb in the city, and just such a tiny fraction, only about 2.5% actually have meters today. Now look, I walk, I bike, but I'm also a driver, so I get it. There's a lot of costs that are associated with being a driver in New York City, but paying for parking is a really modest one. You know, we're talking about $1 here, $5 there, and there's some real benefits that come with expanding paid metered parking. And in fact, I think all 5 ideas in this report have one thing in common, which is they help solve problems at the same time. They're not just about raising revenue. So in this case, we're talking about more turnover of parking spaces, which is good for small businesses. We're talking about less time spent circling, looking for spots. That's good for the environment. And all of this saves drivers time at the same time. And together, while it seems like a relatively modest increase, we're talking about blocks where one block has meters today, and the next block over has businesses but no meters. So a modest expansion, a block here, a block there, to get to about a quarter of those curbside spots across the city. But we estimate that that alone could generate over $1.1 billion in annual recurring revenue. That would be a significant step toward closing this budget gap.
So let's stop right there. We'll take that proposal right there. What have you heard from elected officials, support? have they said, listen, this is a good idea, bad idea? What do you got?
Yeah, well, we've heard some really interesting signs that the administration is paying attention to this one. The first deputy mayor was actually asked about this idea by reporters a few weeks ago and said that this administration is looking at that approach in particular. And then there was some recent momentum in the last couple of weeks. The city announced a new Office of Curb Management within the mayor's office with a charge to help make better sense of these 12,000 miles of curb that we have across the city. And of course, there's multiple competing uses and needs, not only parking, but, roadway dining and needs for new infrastructure for charging electric vehicles and for expanding city bike and other things, and for deliveries. There's a lot of competition for that curb space. But one of the things that we think the city is looking at is, can we generate a little bit of revenue from our curbs that we're leaving on the table today and help address some of the other challenges that are associated with driving in New York City at the same time?
You talked about proposal number one. Let's go a little bit further. What's the next
Sure.
one?
Well, I'll give you another example that actually pertains to our streets. And that is about a little over a decade ago, New York City was frankly pretty blindsided by the introduction of ride-hailing onto our streets, with the Uber app debuting in 2014. And at the time, the city had done very little to prepare, especially in terms of capturing some revenue from this whole new way of getting around the streets. Well, a decade or so later, I think we can learn from that experience and prepare for what may be the next significant change on when it comes to how New Yorkers hail cars to get around the streets, and that's autonomous vehicles. Last year, the city piloted the use of autonomous vehicles on city streets. The state has been considering an expansion of AVs, allowing more autonomous vehicles in upstate communities across the state. And frankly, the data suggests that this might be a really smart thing for New York City to do. There was a completely independent analysis of data from Waymo, the largest AV company, that was published a few months ago, that found that the incidence of serious crashes and fatalities were 91% lower for autonomous vehicles than for the same number of miles driven by human drivers. So there's a real public health benefit to bringing some autonomous vehicles to our streets. But we also think that the city needs to get smart about what that would look like this time around and put some mechanisms in place to actually generate some revenue, in part because, look, an autonomous vehicle, about 75% of the cost of an Uber or Lyft ride is going to the driver. Well, autonomous vehicles don't have that expense. So we think companies could maintain rates at the same level that they are at today, so it wouldn't cost New Yorkers anymore to get around. But those dollars could actually go into a fund that would help support the city's budget. We're talking about impact fees for companies that want to bring autonomous vehicles to the streets of New York City, and potentially something like a $2 per ride surcharge on vehicles that are on rides that are with an autonomous vehicle. Putting those policies in place now can make sure that the city can actually capture those benefits in the years ahead.
So typically, when we know government has a way of, you could play the long game or the short game. There are some things you can get across the field kind of quickly, I assume, and then there are some things that are going to have to go through procedural. Which one of these proposals, if you say, has the best option of going forward in short form? I
do think the modest expansion of paid street parking is probably the best short-term option, mostly because DOT can do this today. The expansion that we're talking about, a few blocks here and a few blocks there, but across all 5 boroughs, is something that doesn't have to go through a complicated approvals process. It's already within the city's control. So that's one where there's a lot of revenue at stake. There's a lot of benefits to putting a policy like that in place, and it can be done pretty quickly.
Yeah. Eli, talk to me a little bit about this here, because how long did it take you guys to really research and come up with these proposals?
Sure. Well, I'll give you a couple other examples I think kind of speak to that. Some of these ideas have been kind of on our minds for a while now, and I'll give you one example of that. We know that CUNY, we're right here at Lehman College, CUNY has dozens of acres of surface parking lots across the 25 or so undergraduate colleges. We're talking about over 10% of the land area for several of CUNY's campuses, from Queens College to Kingsborough Community College to the College of Staten Island. There's also many more acres, dozens of acres of little used open space, land that CUNY isn't actively using for students or activities. And so we have a recommendation in this report, which is to put some housing on some of these parcels of CUNY property around the edges where they're adjacent to roadways, where you're close to transit. An idea like this one, and I mentioned why we've been thinking about this for years, is because CUNY has so many underfunded needs. When it comes to CUNY's own built environment, we're talking about $7 billion in unmet state of good repair needs across the CUNY system. When we're talking about investing in programs that really work, like the CUNY ASAP and ACE programs that are boosting graduation rates by upwards of 40%. Those programs need dollars to be able to scale. So we think one smart way to do it would be to allow for some modest infill housing on CUNY campuses the city would continue to own the land, but would lease that land for housing, affordable housing or mixed income housing for long periods of time, like 99 years. That approach across the campuses that have that potential, where there's that land that's going underutilized today, could generate over $5 billion over the span of a 99-year lease, just in recurring payments that the city could then reinvest back into CUNY. A couple other ideas that we think we've also been thinking about more recently. One example is we know that the city has major needs right now when it comes to battery storage. To be able to modernize the electrical grid, to be able to compensate for surges in demand that are now going to be happening in the wintertime from electrified buildings and heat pumps rather than just peaking in summer afternoons, which is the case today. We're going to need to see a lot more storage capacity across New York City. This wasn't a problem or a challenge that we had, 10 or 15 years ago, but we see it, acutely right now, and it's only going to grow in the years ahead as the demands grow on the grid and the need for more resiliency increases. Well, one of the opportunities that the city has to solve that problem while also generating some revenue, the city's already identified 47 city-owned sites that could be prime for battery storage facilities. And we know that battery storage companies will pay the city hundreds of thousands of dollars per site to be able to build that much-needed storage capacity in the near future. So we think that idea could generate millions of dollars in recurring annual revenue, while also helping the city get closer to its important goal of building about 2,000 megawatts of energy storage capacity over the coming years, where I don't think we're going to be able to get there without using some city-owned sites, but there's a benefit to using those city-owned sites in terms of additional revenue.
Yeah. For the average New Yorker who says, listen, I hear the proposals, but I'm a little skeptical because these proposals may mean more money coming out of my pocket. We're already strapped already. We know the economic state of New Yorkers. We know the economic state of really our country right now. What do you say to New Yorkers who are looking at this and say, ooh, this could potentially be a problem for us?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I guess I would say I think several of these ideas really point to opportunities to generate revenue that doesn't come out of New Yorkers' pockets. I mean, think about that CUNY housing example. That's actually adding the desperately needed housing that we need to be able to afford to live in New York City, and it can generate some revenue at the same time. Same goes for battery storage. We're all going to need increased resiliency in our electrical grid, so we're not suffering brownouts and blackouts, in peak demand times. But that's a policy that while New Yorkers don't have to pay a penny for those investments, we need those investments to strengthen the grid, and we're actually going to be able to generate some revenue as a result of that. And I'll mention one other idea which may come out of the pockets of New Yorkers, but in a way that I think really benefits New Yorkers, and that's an expansion of concessions in our public parks in New York City that could be then reinvested back into making our parks cleaner, greener, safer, more vibrant. Now, of course, the dollars for those concessions ultimately may come from you or me actually choosing to buy a cup of coffee or sit down for a meal in one of our amazing public parks in New York City, opportunities that are so few and far between in New York City today. We've only got a fraction of the concessions that we see in other major cities that have created destination-worthy concessions in their parks and their open spaces. We could do a little more of that in New York City, and I think all of us would benefit from being able to enjoy our parks even more than we do today, while also benefiting from the revenue that could be redirected into our park system to make it safer, cleaner, and more vibrant.
Before we go, talk to me about where this report goes now. I mean, obviously you said lawmakers are taking a look at certain parts of it. Walk us through what else is happening.
Sure. Well, I mean, where we are right now, obviously, is the state budget is late, 3 weeks late, and we're waiting on a state budget. The city has now delayed its own budget to be able to accommodate or address what comes down from Albany. So we're at a really pivotal moment right now, but it's sort of the calm before the storm yet again. Ultimately, we will have a state budget at some point. It will come. We will see where New York City nets out. And ultimately, I think the city's going to realize that we're still several $1 billion short of where we need to be. Now, some of that should be closed with savings. The city obviously has to find ways to live within its means. There are programs that aren't delivering strong return on investment for New Yorkers. Those are opportunities to save some money ultimately in the budget process. But we're going to need new revenues as well. We're going to need those revenues to be able to reinvest in the infrastructure and the programs and the services, the high quality services that New Yorkers want and deserve. And ultimately, I think that's the moment right now and in the weeks ahead where the city is going to be really receptive to practical, achievable ideas that are within the city's control that can help us get out of this budget crunch and get on the path to a solid fiscal footing once again.
Eli Dvorkin, a lot to consume, a lot to look forward to. Let's see how things play out with the city budget, but most of all, see how things play out with the state budget, which impacts the city, and we'll be taking a closer look. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
All righty, good to see you in person. All right, now for more information, you can visit the website at nycfuture.org. Got more open coming up right after the break. Guess what? We're talking gospel music. We'll take a break. Come back right after this.
We are the Echo Leaders.
We learned that everything starts with ourselves. Then we have to educate ourselves. Then we have to build community and use our imagination. mission.
And we are back. For more than 40 years, McDonald's Gospelfest has stood as one of the most influential gospel celebrations in the world, bringing together artists and choirs and audiences in a powerful expression of music, faith, and community. This year, Mother's Day weekend celebration, it's going to be at the Palladium, Times Square. It'll feature an extraordinary lineup reflecting the scale and spectacle of Broadway. And joining me now to share more about this year's McDonald's Gospelfest and what audiences can expect is A. Curtis Farrow, who's the producer and also the director, award-winning producer and director of McDonald's Gospelfest. My brother,
Hey, man.
good to have you back again.
It's great to be back. How you doing?
I'm doing good, and I'm
That's
excited
good.
for you. I mean, this time of year is always important,
Yes.
and always special.
Oh, yes.
And
Oh,
so
yes.
Mother's Day, McDonald's Gospelfest.
Yes, I love telling everybody, I use the Pointer Sisters. I'm so excited, I just can't hide it. I'm about to lose control, and I think I like it.
That's good. So for those people
we're
who,
ready.
Yes, and for those people who don't know, McDonald's Gospelfest has been a long time staple.
A long time. So 43 years ago, 44 years ago, a group of McDonald owner-operators got together, and they wanted to do something as a give back to the community. And they came up with this idea of why don't we do something where we can have the folks who are in the gospel community be able to do and show their gifts and talents outside the four walls of the church.
Right.
They were way ahead of time, right? And so they said, let's do something where they can, also do their talents, use the talents and the gifts that God gave them on major stages or major arenas, And so that was the idea. And of course, Disney, which I always forget to tell you, so Disney came in as well. So the original was McDonald's and Disney. But then Disney sort of fell out because going into the gospel community, as you know, we are a community. So it's not an easy we're just going to tell that community to do this and they're going to do it. It don't work that way. But the McDonald owner-operators who are really a part of the community on an everyday basis with jobs and food and it's one of those places that even when times are tough, people always know they can depend on McDonald's. You know what I'm saying? So the McDonald owner-operators, they came up with that idea. They're the first ones to take that word festival and say fest, which became cool.
Right.
And now it's used by everyone. Yes. Yeah. So, they did a great job. And that was 44 years ago.
And now today you've got this special concert, right?
Oh, my
That's taking
God.
place, more than a concert. So
Yes.
talk about what
Yeah.
people can expect this Mother's Day weekend.
Yeah, it's much more than a concert. We're happy that people consider us the preeminent gospel event in the world. We have folks that come all the way from Japan. We had a choir from Japan last year of 99 voices.
Wow.
They came in the first time ever. A choir outside of the U.S. came and won the choir category, which was unheard of.
Right.
And then, so I do know, and we got folks coming from LA, praise dance teams coming from LA. We got a little 13-year-old singer coming from Dallas. So it comes from all over the country, but all over the world. And that's that community part. So that's the first part of the McDonald's Gospelfest. And that's for the community to come and share their gifts. But then, as soon as that's over, we go to the big time, So we go into having all of the major stars go on one after another, and it is something to behold. If you've never experienced it, I promise you, you want to be there. And parents and families, they love it.
Right. And so, who's performing this year for those who don't know?
Oh my God, we're so excited. So we're at the Palladium Times Square. So we're in the middle of Times Square, right there on Broadway. So we're going to have the legendary Clark sisters. You can't get, in gospel music, you can't get any better than the Clark sisters.
Right.
So we're excited about that. And then Leandra Johnson, she's just a straight up singer.
Right.
You know, as a matter of fact, when we were here in the Bronx, I literally had to have security go out and bring her back on the stage because she was so into the audience.
Wow.
And the audience was loving her. And then because we're on Broadway, we were like, you know what? Let's do something special. So we're bringing back the original Dream Girl, you know, the original Dream Girl herself, and the one and only Jennifer Holliday. And oh my God, all I can say is, you know, we were here in the Bronx last month.
Right.
And folks kept texting me after the show saying, the show was great, it was wonderful, it was the best we've ever seen. And they go, we only have 2 things to say. And I was like, oh my God, I hope they're gonna say the show was great.
Right,
you know?
right.
And they go, we have two words to say. And I was like, what are those 2 words? And they would go, Jennifer Holliday. Oh my God. She's going to be backed by a 90 voice choir.
Okay.
I promise you, your family, you know, for Mother's Day, it is the best. And as you know, Times Square is the center of the universe.
Absolutely.
You know, and so we're excited about that. And we're getting ready. We're ready.
Do you feel as though, you know, with all that's going on in the world, that this is an opportunity really to have a great, you know, lock-in and be escaped from all of it?
Yes, and we've been affected by it. So that 99 voice choir was coming with 200 voices this year. And they just had to back out 3 weeks ago because of the war.
Right.
And then they got, their families started getting afraid of them all coming to the U.S. with everything that's been going on with, you know, immigrants. And so we've been affected by that, and just the folks that usually come from around the world. So the chaos of the world,
it's still playing out with you too.
It plays out with us too. But the greatest thing about it is that we are a God-fearing program. We are a program that believes in God. We are a program that, you know, we celebrate Jesus, and we celebrate not that this is my God, what's your God? No, no, no. We celebrate all people coming together under the banner of God and loving each other. Right. You know, it doesn't matter. We have Muslims in the show. We have everybody that you can think of in the show, all races, all creeds, all color, because as you just said, it is all about love. And I think that that's where we're getting off track. Right. I think we've gotten off track in our communities. We've gotten off track in our churches. We've gotten off track, especially in our politics.
Right.
That we should lead with love. And that's what McDonald's Gospelfest is all about. And as you know, McDonald's is all about family.
Right.
So that's what it is.
So how do people get tickets? What do they do?
Get tickets, go to Ticketmaster.com. And if you want to pay less fees, go to the Palladium, timesquare.com. Much less fees, you know, or go to the Palladium Times Square, go to the box office and get your tickets. We have 3 shows. We're doing a Broadway schedule. Forgot to mention that.
Right.
We're having 3 shows. We're doing a Broadway schedule. And we're doing a Saturday, Mother's Day weekend on May 9th. We're doing a Saturday matinee at 2:30. We're doing a Saturday evening at 7:30, that same Saturday, May 9th. And then on Mother's Day, May 10th, at 6 p.m. in the evening, we're doing a big Mother's Day show. Same thing, same place, the Palladium Times Square, the same station, same folks, and we're going to have a magnificent time. You want to be there. And there's, you know, the great thing about Times Square we learned last year, everybody loved it because there were so many things for families to do. There's so many restaurants. There's a Junior's restaurant that's right outside. You know, there's just so much you can do in Times Square. And so it's funny, the folks who were there last year, those were the first ones calling this year, like, when are the tickets going on sale? When are the tickets going on sale? So I promise you, you will come. It will be nothing but love. You will be received with love, and you will leave celebrating just what a great time that you had.
And obviously, it's also good space for people who want to, you know, be showcased, right?
Yes,
so
yes.
you're being showcased in front of national talent and worldwide talent.
Absolutely. I mean, even I can use last year, as you know, we had the great Yolanda Adams, right? And Yolanda Adams, after that, got an offer to do a Broadway show. Yes, and we've had, and you know, Hezekiah Walker, there's so many, Chrisette Michelle,
Right.
all of those folks have come through McDonald's Gospelfest. You know what I mean? So that opportunity, you never know who's going to be in the audience. And what I find, especially the folks at Disney, the folks who hire, even a lot of the folks who were in The Lion King, a lot of the kids, they came from out of our camp. And so the audience is always filled with somebody there, and every year somebody in that somebody on that stage, they go on to do something else, which is amazing.
Pretty amazing. Once again, let's tell people where to get the tickets again.
Go to Ticketmaster.com or go to the PalladiumTimesSquare.com or go to the box office, or you can call 973-643-6262 and get more information.
And you've done this now for 40?
This is the 44th year. This is my 26th year as the producer and director, and I have to tell you that it only gets better. I love it. We're excited. And if you think I'm excited, you've seen nothing. Come down and see the show. You will enjoy it.
He brings the energy. I've seen it for myself. That's it. Congratulations again, my brother.
Thank you. I
Good
love
to
you,
have
man.
you. Love you
I
too.
Love you. You do a great job.
Thank
and
you.
all of these young people, I love coming here.
Thank you so much. We try to do the good day's work. Good day's work. Now listen,
absolutely.
if you want more information and you want to get tickets again, visit Ticketmaster.com. Also, you go to that Palladium site where Curtis talked about. You'll be able to get your ticket to be a part of McDonald's Gospelfest. Encourage you to stick around. We'll be back with more coming up right after this.
We're gonna start the show right now. This is my favorite part. Ready in 5, 4, 3, 2. Hey, this is Angel, and I am one of the instructors for the in-studio production. Here at Bronxnet, we offer classes that can help you elevate, expand, and start your television career. All you have to do is sign up at bronxnet.org/education. For the past 7 years, I have been in various productions, spanning from talk shows, independent films, news reports, art displays, teachings, musical performances, and many more. Ain't that right, Angel? Yeah, you're absolutely right, Angel. There are a lot of creative individuals that we're just waiting to sign up for the class. And if I may, can I also express thank you, Angel. That's all the time we have left. Visit bronxnet.org/education and become a producer by taking the course. The class I offer is also in English, en español y también bilingüe. Nos vemos en la próxima clase.
And welcome back. For millions of people, a cancer diagnosis marks the beginning of an uncertain battle. But for some, that journey becomes a turning point, one that actually reshapes purpose. Our next guest, a cancer survivor, a book author, and an advocate who spent more than 2 decades living cancer-free. She's joining me now to share her story and the message behind her story. We've got Beth Gardner, private pay outreach specialist with True Care Home Care, and then she is author of One Rowing Stroke at a Time. And thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you because your story is truly inspiring to be able to hear where you've been and literally to encourage others. And as we were talking a little bit about, you know, after getting this cancer diagnosis and overcoming cancer and now writing the book was on the shelf for a long time at home, huh?
That's correct. I actually completed it in 2004. It started as a journal. Then friends had suggested that I write a book. I wrote the book, and then I got busy with my professional career at the time, full-time in the investment industry, and as we know, the 2008 market fall happened.
Right.
And I was extremely busy. I was going to publish it after the 10-year mark, not the 5, because I didn't want to jinx myself.
Right.
But life just has gotten really busy. And so when the pandemic happened, and at the time I was in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and it was on March 20th, 2020, I was sitting there, and once I'd wrapped my head around what a pandemic was, what we were in you know, and what was going to happen, I thought to myself, how are these cancer patients going to receive treatment? Now, I had received home treatment by choice on Saturdays for 12 weeks consecutively when I lived in Philadelphia and I was going to Pennsylvania Hospital in Old City. But I was sitting with my late brother who had cerebral palsy. He was born in 1964. He unfortunately lost one of his lungs, his left lung, when he was 23. And with the cerebral palsy comes a lot of cognitive delays. And he was watching a television show he loved, a rerun of Emergency. And he was sitting there, and I was sitting there looking at the manuscript, and I said, "Do you think I should publish this?" He's like, "What are you waiting for?" And he was an old soul, and he was my older brother. So of course I took his message seriously, and I went ahead and published it. Right. And then it wasn't until the past month that I actually put the website out so people can actually view more about the story.
So let's talk a little bit about your story. You received this cancer diagnosis, right? And after you received the diagnosis, what are your emotions? What are your feelings?
So I went into shock. I was driving in North Philadelphia in an area called 611. Well, that was the route, very similar to University Avenue in North Heights. And it was rush hour traffic in the morning. And I was headed to the University of Pennsylvania, where at the time I worked. So I was traveling from Bucks County through North Philly, and then headed to University of Pennsylvania. And the phone rang. I had a flip phone at the time. I remember it. I had a Starbucks mug. They were both in the side center console. I picked up the phone, and I could tell it was one of my doctors, the surgeons that I had gone to regarding this lump I had, which, by the way, was the size of a golf ball. I thought it was a cyst, and she immediately told me, as I'm in the left-hand lane in North Philly, 2 blocks from Albert Einstein Hospital, "It's cancer. We need for you to contact the front desk. We're going to start scheduling post-surgery consultation, and we need you to do this as soon as possible." I was driving a stick shift, a Volkswagen Fox 1991 car I had bought myself. And I had to get from the left lane to the right lane, and then very much like the Bronx, there are no real shoulders to pull over it.
Right.
Unless you're going to parallel park,
Right.
which I was not in this event. So I went into shock, but then at the same time, I'm like, I can't get into a car accident. So I pulled into a Sunoco station, which I had frequently gone to before to get gas when I was traveling back from Bucks County, and just sat there for about 10 minutes, and then I called my mother. And then I called my supervisor saying, "I'm going to be a little late, traffic's thick." Right. But I didn't say why.
12 weeks of infusion chemotherapy you underwent. What was that process like for you?
So I chose to have it on a Saturday on the weekend. I had that option because I didn't want work to know. Work didn't find out until I was about 11 or 12 weeks into getting chemotherapy. I was scared about being fired. I was working at the time, I had retired from the sport of rowing 1 year prior. It was 1 month after my 30th birthday, and literally 3 weeks before I was going to run what would have been my first and only marathon. I'm not genetically predisposed to run marathons, but I wanted to give it a go. So it was challenging in the sense of I had to organize everything. My parents at the time had been retired and were looking after my special needs older brother. And the last thing I wanted to do was be the kid that they're going to have to bury. So I went ahead and handled everything pretty much on my own. I did bring my mother in on occasion for appointments because she's a registered nurse. So I figured there are RN 101 questions. She can just start asking them. Right. But every Saturday morning, the nurse would come with a container of the 2 different types of chemotherapy I got. For 6 weeks, it was one, and then 6 weeks, another. And I would receive a large dosage of Benadryl so that I didn't have an allergic reaction. And then the treatment process would take place. And because of the large doses of Benadryl, and I'm talking like 4 to 5 pills equivalent, I slept for the better part of the afternoon, but my mindset was it'll allow me to sleep on the weekend, on Sunday, and then Sunday afternoon I could wrap my head around getting back into the game of work and just move through the week. And I did that for 12 consecutive weeks.
Amazing, amazing. You take your experience, you translate it into a book, you write your book. The book is titled One Rowing Stroke at a Time, which really talks about that career in rowing, right? That you retired from, and then also being able to go through this journey and overcome. What is it that you want people to know about this book?
It is a book for people to understand that they are not alone. This happened to me 25 years ago, and there were a lot of stigmas, social stigmas against it. I immediately became more compassionate about those that may have been diagnosed with HIV because there was a discrimination that I was dealing with. I felt like I was walking on eggshells all the time. I felt like I was a walking time bomb. And so I want people to understand that they are not alone. There were two things that people consistently said to me throughout the journey which stuck with me and helped me. Maybe they'll help other people that, number one, you're not alone. Number two, everything's gonna be okay. And if you think about for yourself, if there's ever been a moment in time where life has thrown you a curveball, true curveball, it's nice to hear someone say, you know what, everything's gonna be okay. You just need to hear that.
Right.
So I want people to understand that, but I also want them to know that they're not alone. You know, I talked throughout the book on what I did to actually beat the disease, and there are a lot of extreme measures that I went through, but to me, this was not like any other rowing race I had been in before. This was a final only. You will win or you will not. So my mindset was, all right, we're gonna win this. I just gotta figure out how.
Right. And you were able to really do that. And now you share your story with others. What's the message that you're passing on? Because obviously your impact has been great. A lot of people told you, write the book, tell the story. But what's the message that you feel that you pass on to others through this experience and through your writing?
So it is a non-discriminatory disease. It will affect anyone in any corner of the world. And I've already done interviews on a world level and that was my intention of the book. It does not matter what religion you are, what genetic background you have, what heritage you come from. This is affecting everyone on a global level. So I'm looking to just give people hope. At the end of the day, we all want hope, regardless of what we're battling. If we know we have hope and we have faith, and we know that there's a higher power, a God, whatever you choose to call it, a universe to oversee this and take it and give you direction on how to succeed it, follow that, regardless of what your practices are.
Right. For yourself, obviously, you know, this has been a journey that has been long and at the same time, you know, transformative. If you could surmise your journey in one word, how would you surmise it?
Perseverance.
Perseverance. That's good. Now, I want to, before we get out of here, tell people again, how do they get the book?
So I have a website called Beth Gardner, and that's where the book is at. The book is actually linked to Amazon, so you can also find it on Amazon. I did self-publish the book as an athlete. It was important for me to do the writing myself, not have a ghostwriter, and not be that stereotypical, people presume she's an athlete, she probably had somebody write it. So they can find it on Amazon.
Beth Gardner, thank you so much for being with us. Story is inspirational.
Thank
you
you
for taking the time to share, and congratulations on your journey and your impact for so many people. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now if you want more information, visit her website again at bethagardner.com. I want to let you know we come to the end of our show today. I want to thank all of our guests for joining us and you, the viewer, for tuning in. If you missed any part of today's show, you can catch the recablecast on Optimus Channel 67, Verizon Fios, that's Channel 2133, or watch us anytime on the web at bronxnet.org. You can catch a brand new episode of Open with my girl, Rena Valentine, on Friday. This wraps up this episode for us. I am Darren Jaime saying make sure to keep this channel wide open. We say take care and God bless.